Hi folks, so as I return from my 2-week holiday, I thought I might get back into gear with a desktop tour video. Now, according to my channel page, it's been 4 months since I last did a desktop tour video, and that was of the Manjaro KDE desktop back when I had that installed on this desktop machine here. Now, I have used various different Linux distributions since then, but I have since arrived at Manjaro XFCE distribution, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my choice there. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the distributions that I tried in my sort of exploration phase. But I am no longer going to be distro hopping on this machine as much as I thought I would. I thought that I might try and change up some of the content on this channel. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in this video as well. But I think now, after I've checked out all of the distributions, I've got to say, having looked at the various distributions, there's not really the world of difference in these distributions to the end user at the end of the day. Once you've customized it, once you've got a theme that you like, once you've got a workflow that you like, once you've got your apps that you like, at the end of the day, most people will end up with the same or similar distribution. The biggest differences will be things like package management, how the release cycle of the packages. For example, you're going to go with a 6-monthly cycle, rolling release, or long-term support release that gets released every couple of years. And then what packages on top of that? You can use Flatpaks or snaps, because at the end of the day, you could have an Arch-based distribution, you could have an Ubuntu-based distribution, but if most of your applications are just from Flatpaks, then you've got a very, very similar distribution, a very similar computer at the end of the day. So I think that when it comes to how I have hopped around, I decided to come back to Manjaro because it is one of those distributions that's, well, built by the community for the community. It's a community-centric distribution. It's got a very strong community around it. And because of that, the distribution, the default set, all that kind of stuff, the documentation, it behaves the way that you expect it to. It's not necessarily done to attract new users. It's done to satisfy the users that they've already got. It's done for the community. So you don't necessarily get all of the most super user-friendly features there, because if they don't support the existing community, then they're probably not going to be enthusiastically embraced by the same community there. So it's going to be, the community is going to be, or the distribution is going to be a reflection of the community. And I actually kind of like that reflection there as well, because again, I don't necessarily need all these bells and whistles to make my life easier. I know exactly what to do or what applications to install to do that. I just want to have something straightforward and something that just behaves the way that I expect, that's reasonably up to date. It doesn't have to be absolutely cutting edge, but considering that I've got a decent graphics card, considering I've got a decent processor and a decent amount of memory, it makes sense to have the latest versions or reasonably new versions of software. So that's why I'm leaning towards a rolling release rather than a long-term support release. If I was on a machine that was not as new as this one is, or wasn't as high performance as this one is, then I would probably go for the more long-term support, low maintenance type of machine. And also, I don't know if I would have more than one machine with a rolling release, especially something like Arch-based, because that's a lot of updates to download and install, and you can break builds from time to time. So to have it makes sense to tend to lean towards long-term support releases if stability and low maintenance were your priorities here. They're not on this machine. I like to have reasonably up-to-date NVIDIA graphics, reasonably up-to-date kernel. I like the kernel management utilities that come with Manjaro as well. I think if we actually hop into here, and I can show you down Manjaro system settings here with the kernel. And then it gives you all of the kernels that are available to you. So I've got the LTS kernel that is running, so 4.14. But I can run something a bit newer. I can go up to 4.18.12-1. So, and you get to install, you get to remove them as you wish. It's very user-friendly, very straightforward. So it's not going to be something that's necessarily going to be interesting to newcomers, what version of the kernel they're running. They're just going to want something that works. But if you're running a gaming rig, for example, you're probably going to have some kind of interest in which kernel you're running, especially if you're running particularly new hardware. Now, fortunately enough, the kernel that I've got now is doing quite well for me. But if it wasn't, I'd have plenty of choice there as well. So This is what I mean by it's built by the community for the community. If it's not built for every single person on the planet, it's not designed for someone who can barely use a computer. You need to be able to read through documentation. You're going to need to understand what certain terms mean. But once you have the basic knowledge of how a Linux distribution is put together, I think Manjaro is a really strong candidate for a lot of people because, again, it's just intuitive. It's not idiot-proof. It's not completely 100% locked down, super stable all the time. But it behaves. It's intuitive. It behaves the way that you expect it to, or at least certainly for the most cases. Some people have reported with Manjaro that they have some issues when it comes to packages from the AUR not always playing nice because Manjaro is a step behind the Arch cycle. I got to say that's not necessarily an issue that I've ever had. However, on this particular install of Manjaro, actually have 0 packages from the AUR running. I actually have no packages from the AUR running. So anyway, let's get into some of the parts of the review here, parts of the system that I'm going to be taking a look at here. But the reason I'm doing this desktop tour today is because I'm probably not going to be bouncing around my distributions very much from here on in. So I tried Pop! OS, which is based on Ubuntu. I really quite liked that. That was really quite nice. It looked nice. It was smooth. It was something that I really quite liked from 76. There's no real reason why I moved on from that. I would have been perfectly happy with an Ubuntu-based build. And again, of course, I quite enjoyed that. Then I tried Solus. Solus was really quite good as well, actually. It's a rolling release. It's completely independent. And in many ways, it's almost like how I imagined the Windows that people want to look like with Solus. It kind of has a Windowsy feel about it, but the kind of Windows that people wished existed. So it is a rolling distribution, so you don't have to worry about release cycles, all that kind of stuff, with a focus on stability. There are plenty of people who have watched my videos in the past, and they completely sing Solus's praises in regards to that having very builds that stay on the machine forever, and so it's the lowest maintenance, most up to date. It's the best balance, I think, when it comes to what Windows users are looking at. Now there'll be some Windows users, of course, that want an LTS. They want the lowest maintenance, most stability possible. Once they've got something that works, they really only want security updates ad infinitum, really, at that stage. So, because in my mind, it does beg the question, just as a tangent, that there might be a space for a distribution that gets is released once every 5 years or something like that, but and just have security updates. I think the vanilla Ubuntu and Linux Mint do have 5-year. If I'm not mistaken, 5-year support cycle. So I suppose if you technically were able to upgrade a system once every 4 or 5 years with Linux Mint. But I guess considering how many people are getting concerns that Windows 7 will be running out of support soon, that has a lot of people concerned. And Windows 7 is a pretty old operating system at this stage as well. So anyway, let's crack on. I'll give you a bit of a tour of the Manjaro with Manjaro XFCE. Now I chose XFCE because XFCE as desktop it's very traditional. It's minimalist. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that you don't necessarily need. I kind of like that. It's just a bit more slim in that regard. I like KDE. You could slim KDE Plasma right down as well. I'd certainly be very happy back on that. But I just wanted to give XFCE a go because it's a bit old school, and I like the old school charm that XFCE brings. It's very similar in terms of its paradigm to how I learnt to use GUI desktop environments, particularly even back from my Windows 95 days. It still has that certain reminiscence there, and I like the beveled edge themes, and you guys may have noticed I've actually got the traditional theme here, the theme that comes with Manjaro XFCE. There are a few more to choose from, and I can actually go into appearances. So I got Vertex Mayor here. I think Breath and Breath Dark might be newer ones, and there are Vertex Lights, there's Vertex Dark. The dark themes do actually look really quite nice. You've even got some XFCE classics down here, and I quite like the older style themes as well. So I'm very happy at home with XFCE. I quite like Mate as well. Personally, I do often opt towards the desktop environment that is the flagship desktop environment for a distribution. A lot of the time it's often the one where they've put the most amount of work into it. But when it comes to something as as malleable as a Manjaro distribution or as an Arch-based distribution. You can do almost anything you want with almost any desktop environment. You pretty much have a free reign of your desktop environments here in that regard as well. And if you want to set a desktop environment up a very specific way, you've of course got the terminal command line installed as well. So the background wallpaper I've got comes from the public domain, so it's Abandoned Forest here. I keep a few around, I think. Yes, here we go. So if you type in Railroad Forest into pixels, you will have. It's quite a lot of good wallpaper, good wallpapers on pixels there. So. Yeah, definitely worth checking them out. So, but that's where I got this one. This one's actually quite an old one I've had for quite a while. As you can see, I quite like the flat icon theme as well. It goes very well with the slightly old school look. But as you can see, the windows here. Yeah, see, it's not flat like a lot of the modern GTK themes. They're trying to be a bit more flat now to give that kind of more modern look, which is kind of good and all. Okay, so this is my terminal. I think I might tweak the colors on this terminal. I kind of like the dark background on terminals. Let's do neo fetch to see what's what. So what have we got here? Terminal font monospace 12. I could try and track down maybe a different terminal font from time to time as well. So there you can see my my resolution. Yes, I'm on a 1440 by 900 monitor. The uptime, although that's only 1.5 hours with my uptime, that's because I recently rebooted from an upload. I've got 27 flat packs there among 1,025 Pac-Man packages. As you can see here, I've got the AX370 Gaming 5 motherboard, if that means anything to anyone. And as you can see here, I've got the AMD Ryzen 7 1700 16 core with the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970 graphics card. And if you want to have a look at the flat packs that I have listed here, so there we go. That is the list of flat packs. You've got to love the flat pack list command. You just get to, flat pack is just such an easy way to manipulate packages just from the command line as well. I know that a lot of people, just the sheer glimpse of a command line is horrifying, but I must say, when it comes to trying to work how each distribution has its own way of integrating flat packs into their GUI storefront or their application manager, it's the same on the command line wherever you go. It's the same set of commands. It's the same workflow. It's fantastic. So as you can see here, I got SyncThing GTK. I got OBS. Now, when it comes to OBS, I actually have multimedia here. I've got the Flatpak version and I've got the native version for Manjaro there as well. Both of them work really quite well, but if one fails on me, it's just nice to have a backup. So I got SyncThing, OBS. I got RSS Guard. That is not the RSS reader that I tend to use. I think it's Liferia is the one that I tend to use these days, but I'll keep a few around. GNOME boxes. The GNOME password safe is not that bad actually. Password safe. There we go. So I've got some passwords there. Obviously, I'm not going to be logging in right now, but this password safe, which uses the KeePass database format, actually is not too bad if you want a GTK-based password manager, because of course KeePassX and KeePassXC are Qt-based. As you can see, I've got them installed here on the Flatpak. I'm probably going to stick with KeePassXC as my main one, but again, it's nice to know that you've got choices. It's nice to know you've got options. If you are a GTK diehard, then perhaps the GNOME password safe is one that you would prefer. Both of them are really quite good, so I'm certainly not going to complain there. I've got Stunt Rally. I've also got OpenTTD. I've got Kdenlive there as well. I used the Flatpak version of Kdenlive. That seems to be one that works just on any distribution. You name any distribution, and you can run Flatpaks on. You can get Kdenlive on. So that is really quite useful for me. It's just nice to be able to have that reliable a workflow. And do I have SuperTuxKart there as well? I don't see. Yes, it is SuperTuxKart. Nice. So as you can see, I've got quite a few. Oh, and AbiWord there as well. AbiWord is pretty awesome. If those of you that were watching me on Tex's X-Penguin podcast will know, we had a bit of a chat about AbiWord. And yeah, like if you're looking for a word processor that is not particularly advanced, you want just the basic word processor here, hello, I'm Chris. Would help if I could spell my name correctly and punctuate a sentence correctly. But there we go. And so it's just a very basic flat pack version of AbiWord. There we go. I'm not entirely sure why AbiWord has its own format, while why doesn't it use something existing? But other than that, yeah. So if you're looking for a very simple text editor, then yeah, AbiWord's pretty good for that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's those are my flat packs, and those are my NeoFetch statistics as well. So that's all pretty good. And I like the terminal. I like the terminal color scheme that I've got there. I think I customized that, but I'm not 100% certain. Of course, I've got the Firefox browser. That is my main browser of choice. And of course, as with any time I show a browser on this channel these days, I've got to show my NeoCities website. It links out to all of my social media, which is quite useful. It also provides links to useful apps and interesting websites. So if you are in need of maybe a game here or two, or a good Linux app, if you don't, if you're looking for an app to fulfill a role, I guess, then maybe you might find it right here. I've got a few web apps that are closed source, but everything else I believe is open source there. Nice little website. But yes, so I'm using just the basic Firefox now. As you can see, I don't have all my little plugins and add-ons and favorites and all that kind of thing. This is just the browser that I'm using for today's video, but it's to me, it's one that just does the job. It's nice, it's free, it's open source, and it's an alternative to Google. I have been tempted with some of the other browsers, the GNOME web browser, Falcon as well, two other browsers there, and I think there's Qt browser as well, which I think I've used once or twice. But yeah, like Firefox is just the one that comes with every distribution that I find particularly reliable. So I do tend to stick with that one for now. Also, so here we go. We've got the channels and that kind of stuff. And also I've got the applications website for FlatHub. So FlatHub is the de facto default store for Flatpak files. And I often just like to browse through it from time to time just to see if there's anything new, anything exciting. So you got AvidMux here, you got so you got two-factor authentication here on FlatHub. That's pretty useful. I might give that one a try sometime. You got the Fedora Media Writer, so that's Fedora Media Writer, so that's pretty cool. What else have we got here? So there's a lot going on. You've got Audacity here, Astra Menace, Armageddon, Desktop Wallet for Arc, Chess X. Oh, you can see me fail at chess if you wanted to. So there's a lot. And multimedia file converter. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I often quite like to have a look at the FlatHub store, just because there are plenty of great things, plenty of great finds on this particular app store, and it's all going to be available for your distribution. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to come in the right deb or RPM format, or whether or not you'll find it in the AUR, and whether or not the version in the AUR will be up to date. You've got something that's really quite straightforward here. And the games, there's not an insignificant number of games out here, and some of them are really worth a look as well. So definitely worth checking out, regardless of whatever your budget might be. Xonotic. Definitely one to check out. I've checked this game out on this channel before. In fact, a number of the games that I found in the Open Source Gaming Week I found through the Flatpak store. It was, when you're sort of recommending a game, I suppose it makes sense in that regard to make sure that most people can get it working. So if we go into my favorites menu of the XFCE menu here. So we've already gone through my browser of choice, Firefox. We've gone through the terminal emulator. This is the XFCE4 terminal emulator, but to be honest, I use whatever one just comes with the distribution. Most of them are really quite nice. The XFCE one is nice, quick, it's responsive, it always does the job. So it's pretty good from that point of view. Thunar, another great file manager, but it is quite easy to switch out if that is not your kind of thing. But yeah, Thunar works nicely. It works as the more traditional file managers do. We've got PMAC for the adding and removal of programs using a GUI. This is great. It's really straightforward to use. If you can use Synaptic on the Ubuntu-based distributions, then you can use this. I do tend to drop towards the command line when it comes to installing, searching for new packages, that kind of thing. And then, of course, I do tend to browse the FlatHub website. But yeah, this works. This completely does the job if this is your preferred workflow and you prefer to stay off the command line here. It's really quite good, responsive, does the job, yeah, pretty wonderfully there. So, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of offline password management, and this I tend to use KeePass databases to do so. Now, there is, of course, with the Flatpaks that I showed you earlier, GNOME Password Safe, which is the GTK version equivalent of this, and this is also a Flatpak build. And it uses the same kind of KeePass database. So if I save a database in KeePass XC here, I can open it in the password, the GNOME Password Safe. So I can decide from system to system, or just from day to day, which which password manager rather tool I use. I just tend to go with KeePass XC. I used to use KeePass X, and this is the community build. It's a bit more up to date with a bit more, with a few more newer features. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily blend in with the GTK themes as well as it could do. That's just the nature of the Flatpak build itself. If I installed KeePass XC from the Manjaro native repositories, it would blend in with the theme a lot better. But to be honest, I don't care enough to actually switch out my KeePass XC Flatpak installation. We do, of course, have Steam. I won't load that up now, but you guys all know what Steam looks like. I've got a screenshot utility, of course, for Screenshot Sundays. I've got OBS. In fact, if we go over to multimedia, you will notice that I've got two versions of OBS. I've got the OBS Flatpak, and I've got the OBS which is standard with the distribution here. And this goes back to my point about the importance of being able to choose the origins of your software as well as what the end user gets as well. Because, for example, one of these versions of OBS, the Flatpak version, has been packaged by the OBS maintainers, whereas the OBS that is included in the distribution repositories is maintained by the Manjaro distribution maintainers. So you've got the package. You've basically got a package packaged by two different groups of people, and that is quite useful in that regard, because one will be one will be more directly from the developers, the other will be from the distribution, and sometimes some software is best acquired through one over the other. So what else have we got here? So back up into favorites. We can also go into and Kdenlive. I've got Kdenlive. I've got the Flatpak there. I use the app image a lot of the time as well, simply because you just don't get regressions when you use the app image. But the version that also works with Manjaro also works pretty well in general. So what have we got here? We've got Password Safe. We've got Abbey Word as well. Now, for those of you that know, I was recently on the X-Penguin podcast, and if I can remember, I'll try and put a link in the description down below. That's HexDSL's podcast. Wonderful podcast, and I eventually got on as a guest. And we talked about Abbey Word here. And I don't use Abbey Word that much. I am a LibreOffice kind of person. It works for me in all the cases, but I do some pretty, I do like secretarial work, reports, minutes, all that kind of stuff. So I do tend to use the more advanced features of LibreOffice, but a lot of people tend to prefer the more scaled down, straightforward, basic word processor. Abbey Word's really good for this. Again, also available as a Flatpak, so there's all that. But yeah, and I quite like Abbey Word as well, so that's pretty wonderful there. What else have we got in the recently used? Of course, there's Kdenlive, there's the Password Safe, Simple Screen Recorder, which is what I'm using to record this particular video, and I'm using that from the native Manjaro repositories. I set a new desktop background as well. Mousepad and recipes as well. GNOME Recipes, wonderful little application, available in the FlatHub store as well as a Flatpak, and it's full of great recipes, and yeah, worth a look if you ask me, which is pretty good. So this is what have we got here? So it's GNOME Recipes. GNOME loves to cook, learn more about recipes, etc. So that's pretty good, worth checking out at the FlatHub store. Also down there as well, I've got SyncThing. in the bottom right hand corner there. I'm not going to pull it up now because it's probably got some personal connections on there, but if you are looking for an application that can sync files across, for example, your desktop to your laptop to your phone, SyncThing is wonderful. You can get SyncThing GTK as a flat. You can get everything as a flat pack these days. So if we search for SyncThing GTK as a flat pack, this is what it looks like, and that's the install commands. This is absolutely wonderful. So you set up SyncThing on your laptop, your desktop, your phone, and what I had set up, which is my go-to note-taking workflow, was to have SyncThing on my mobile phone, my laptop, and my desktop, and just have one folder that was shared for the purposes of three-way syncing all my devices, and I had a plain text document on that. In that folder, and that was like my dynamic note-taking app where everything synced up the way that it should do, and it was absolutely wonderful. I didn't have to pay a fee or anything like that. It was just it was really a good workflow, and the only reason I ended up stopping it was because I don't use my my smartphone so much anymore. But I keep these two, my laptop and my desktop, synced with SyncThing GTK, and I'm going to be on the lookout for more uses for it because it's really quite good. I think the standard version, the 18.04 version of Ubuntu, comes with the command line version of GTK, and it opens it up in a browser window, which works almost as good. But you can always then just pop on the flat pack if you want to have the full GUI experience for SyncThing GTK. But yeah, definitely worth checking out, because if you want to make sure that two folders on two different computers are synced up, then what I have done with it as well, actually, another interesting thing I've done with SyncThing GTK is that my folder full of app images is actually synced across. So I've got a certain set of app images, certain set of applications that are installed on every computer all simultaneously, which is something that is also pretty darn cool. So I think other than that, I can do a quick scan through, but I think most of what you'll see here is broadly what you would expect. Stunt Rally, that's a game available as a flat pack, also reviewed on this channel, definitely worth a look. I've got SuperTux card there, of course, LibreOffice Draw. I've got the GNU. In fact, I think this might actually be the version from Manjaro, the GIMP or the GNU image manipulation program, simply because it was installed out of the box from this, so I didn't bother to pull down a flat pack. This is what I use to create all my thumbnails, all that kind of stuff, so I'm actually a big fan of the GIMP. I know a lot of people tend to prefer Krita these days because it's more like Photoshop and it's a bit fancier, but when it comes to basic stuff, that's it. Liferia is my RSS reader of choice now these days, very simply because it's just the one that works best with GTK environments. I quite like RSS Guard as well. I've got that installed as a flat pack. And also I do have Skype for when I have to do meetings, and I do have Discord as well for when I have to do video chats, using that as well, because you can't do video chats through the website yet, as far as I can remember. Maybe they've changed that. VLC Media Player is what comes with the Manjaro XFCE, but I have kept it on there just because it's nice to have a backup, I guess, in case one falls down on you. But I think there's and oh yeah, I've got GYDL. This is a GUI version of the YouTube DL command line application. So if you want to download a video from YouTube, or you want to download the audio, then you can do so. So that's pretty cool as well. That's available in the FlatHub store as a flat pack, of course. Okay, folks, so I think that's about it from me today. I'm just going to wrap up with a little bit of an update. Thank you to those of you that sent some ever so kind messages after my last video. I'm going to probably do another video talking a little bit about that and just sharing some thoughts about the future of this channel. I've got a lot of new and exciting ideas, but there is something you guys probably should be aware of. I've been doing a lot of streaming lately over on Twitch, so if you don't already, it's probably worth following me, twitch.tv/Chris Ware. There's usually links in the description. If not, there will certainly be on the channel page. However, a lot of you guys aren't too fond of Twitch, but there are also a lot of people that aren't too fond of video game streams and so forth on this channel as well. So what I've decided to do is everything gaming. I've decided to move to a whole new channel called Gaming with Werewolves. Some of you guys wanted more punny names, so this one's on me. It's basically a channel that is going to mirror the Twitch channel. So I've got an archive of old live streams there, and I'll be mirroring. Hopefully I'll be mirroring Twitch live streams over on that channel as well. So if you don't want to watch the live streams over on Twitch, sometimes, for example, the performance isn't wonderful or anything like that, then subscribe to Gaming with Werewolves, and you should be able to watch live streams from that instead. But yeah, so I think I'm going to be doing fewer gaming live streams on this channel, Chris Ware Digital, simply because it's that was really the big divide where opinion happened to be, was all the other videos that I make versus gaming live stream videos. So I thought, well, let's do the gaming live stream videos on Twitch, and for those of the people who don't like Twitch, and there are perfectly valid reasons for that. I've been very critical of Twitch as a company on this channel before. And for those of you that just don't, outright don't want to use Twitch, then check out Gaming with Werewolves. It's a brand new channel, and I'm just going to do gaming stuff entirely on that. I'll do the occasional, review type game, but when it comes to the long form stuff and some of the game stuff that we do live, I'm just going to do Gaming with Werewolves. I'm going to set it up as its thing on its own. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I think I'm going to leave it there, but let me know your thoughts, of course, down in the comment section below, and relative links will be down in the description. So that's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.